All right, look, I would like to formally welcome you to AGM 2025. I think that makes it the 34th AGM that COED has hosted. And it all started with this. It's not mine. That all started with that the great man that you see on screen. And that was a photo from him exactly 10 years ago. So big welcome. We've tried to make this again a little bit different to previous years, and it's always very stressful. I always tell my students to begin a speech by saying how nervous you are, and I'm going to keep to that because I'm very nervous, and I find it helps calm me down by admitting to the fact I'm nervous. All right, so I'd like to welcome Shane Doyle, our secretary. Dr. Doyle will just handle the formal apologies and acceptance of the minutes section of the meeting from the last year. Shane, do you want to come forward? I did get an apology just before the meeting from I believe the president of the Queensland Bangladeshi Society, who had an accident yesterday and sent me a fairly graphic photo of proof, but I really appreciated the fact that he was planning to come. Shane?
Thanks, Olive. Just checking on Tony, did we receive any other apologies?
No, we didn't receive apologies.
And also, if anybody wants to pass on apologies, please let us know.
Okay, my role today is very simple, just to move a motion that the minutes that I've circulated, at least they are draft minutes, on Friday to all our committee members, and they were the minutes from the last annual general meeting, which is our 33rd. Today is our 34th. And that was also physically held at Ann Street in Central Queensland University premises. So I just want to move that those draft minutes be approved. I just need a seconder. Okay, Ben, I've got Ben French for the record. So thanks, Ben. And you're approved. So back to you, Olive. That's it. That was simple.
And that's going to be the spirit of today, getting through the boring stuff as quickly as possible so we can concentrate on the special things. I just wanted to start off also by mentioning some of the donors who are absent today and the donors who have supported us over the decades that we've been operating. Last time I was in Bangladesh, I wrote to a few donors and I got this amazing email from Jeff Clark. And you know what? I'm so busy with stuff in Bangladesh that I have to confess I rarely think about the donors. This email was truly moving. I apologise. It's moving for a couple of reasons because it demonstrates that people who don't have a great deal in Australia are giving, huge amounts of money to help children on the other side of the world. And Jeff and his late wife fostered 47 kids in their lives. And he sent me this wonderful photo of the last one they fostered, this young lady who he helped get through burns surgery. And that's them in the wrong colours, obviously, from a Brisbane perspective. Collingwood is not the right team to support, but everything else about that particular message, deeply moved me. I might just compose myself and hand over to Ben. Ben's our treasurer, and I will let him deal with the finances for the year. We'll get through this fairly quickly as well. Go for it, Ben.
Thanks very much, Olive. Morning, all. I'll just take one click the slides, Olive. So if we can have the first click, please.
Can you see that?
Yeah, bringing in beautifully. Thank you. So do you want to just, yeah. So our total income for the year, $390,002.70. As you can see, it's significantly up on last year. And we're very, very proud of that. It's one of the biggest years we've had. If we keep going, Olive, down the screen.
This is the expenses, Ben.
Yep. And you can see here with the expenses, they've pretty much stayed the same. So the dinner expense is not a dinner. We've realised there's a typo there. It's just the booking of the room and that from previously. Our audit fees have stayed the same. They've just gone up for the one just gone, but that's to be expected. The bank fees, we've done a lot more banking than that, so they've gone up. But the good news is we've gone from 5 banks down to 2 banks, which is very, very important because of the stress the banks cause us. And Olive will talk about later of the new operating systems we're going through for that. Olive,
I'll just shift it to that slide, Ben, so you can talk about the simplification of the banking. Hey?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. The simplification of the banking, as I said, we've gone 5 to 2 because currently those NABs have rolled over. Matured, and we've moved them to a different cash management platform, which is listed at the bottom. So we're now working with 2 main accounts. Basically, the ANZ is the one we use for donations over the phone, and the Suncorp account generally. This is, of course, June 30. The Suncorp's used to pay our expenses, and of course we've got the PayPal account there as well, and we've just moved those funds over as well to the general account. So if you just go back 1 slide, please, Olive.
That one?
Yeah, because we did, and go back one step further. Because we just did want to point out, there's the slides show that Australian expenses, apart from Olive's flights, which I'll address separately, are actually down. So we've noted them separately because Olive made a donation to the charity to allow for the payment of the flights. So we haven't included them. We've included them. They're still on the list of the audit, of course, but when we're looking at the overall percentage, I mean, that's just absolutely incredible and something the whole committee's very, very proud of. The book expenses in particular are down. That's because we had to change over treasurer. But we're very, very proud of it that 98% of the money donated essentially goes back to the charity itself. And that's a raise of 79,851, close to 80,000, as you can see towards the bottom. Now, the closing retained profits, you can see there, 1.335. So we've stayed pretty much in for that. So that's a good sign with the large donations coming in. The other thing I should point out, with keeping the expenses down, we've had the financial advisors with BT Panorama giving their advice and setting up the share portfolio for free. Several members of the committee, including people like Tony, have paid for Infoodle. Oliver, as I said, has paid for his flights. Paddy also pays for his flights to keep the cost down. So there's just, some amazing generosity from several members of the committee as well, apart from their time financially as well, which I think is important to point out. Next slide, Oliver, please.
And that's it, Ben?
And that's it. So on that note, is there any questions? Happy to take them. All right, in that case, can I ask that the financial reports be moved, please? Seconder. Thanks, Bhola. And all in favour? Silence? Okay, thanks, Olive.
Thanks very much, Ben. By the way, I've just checked the messages. A couple of things I've got to mention. First of all, Marcus pointed out you can see how nervous I am. That was not the Collingwood colours, but Geelong. And I have much less of a problem with Geelong. Now, also apologies from Fran Davis and Gillian Furness, passed on by Iqbal. Appreciate that. And feel free to feel free to type in comments. I'll keep a little bit of an eye on it from now on. I'd like to welcome Tony, long-time former chair, many times also deputy chair, but he now handles our fundraising side of things.
Thanks, Olaf. And look, it's wonderful to see so many long-time supporters here at the AGM today. We're so glad to see you here. What I'd like to do, Ben's shown some of the numbers already, so I'd just like to kind of take a look at this from a different point of view, because really the important thing about fundraising is what you do with the funds and what we achieve with the funds. And so what I'd like to show you here is that we're able to actually do more. We're always on the front foot on this. And we're on the front foot. Let me just...
Arrow, Tony.
Yeah.
Not on my screen, but on that screen.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
So just keep your finger down.
Yeah,
There.
yeah. Thank you for technical support there, Olaf. That's great. Yeah, we make this commitment as a long-term thing that we will achieve a position where at least 95% of the donations go to Bangladesh. And in fact, you've seen from Ben's numbers, it's actually better than that at the minute. It's running up at 98% are going to Bangladesh. And the reason we're able to do this is that all the Australian management end is by volunteers. And our volunteer group is led by Olaf, who, and speaking personally, I just find trying to keep up with his boundless energy to be a constant challenge. But anyway, I could define my job on that. If I can keep up with Olaf's energy level, then I think I'm doing something right. So we're able to pass things on. And again, I'm aware we have a lot of long-time supporters here and supporters during the year. So your support has achieved this. We've run 40 schools and 18 preschools. We have provided education to over 6,000 students. We've rebuilt 2 ageing schools and done major repairs on another 4 schools. And Paddy was over again doing that and doing a wonderful job there. We've connected electricity to 5 schools, including 3 preschools. And a lot of that was done by our team in Bangladesh, who we were able to stay in touch with that remotely. And so that got done. And we added 61 fans to schools to help keep students cool. And to achieve this, we're very proud of this. And all of our supporters should be too, because it's a fantastic year. So let me talk a little bit about the income, just recapping a couple of numbers before I get on to the trend underneath it. The income was $390,002.70. That was above last year, but $28,333.19 below the expenditure. Now that looks like a pretty good result, but there's something happening underneath with the income trend, which causes us to be a little cautious going forward. To explain this, let me go back to Fred's original approach. What he said was that an Australian supporter builds a school in Bangladesh and then funds it every year. And brilliantly simple. I mean, just fantastic job to pull this together and to pull together the team around him that carries it on to this day. The thing about this is, we're winding back over 30 years to when all this started, and supporters who took on a school every year have actually maybe done that for 10 years or maybe 15 years, but they haven't kept it up to today. Often they have dropped out. So what's actually happening is we have this constant weight of schools that we actually need to support from everyday funds. And that's particularly a challenge because fewer Australian supporters are now willing to commit for multiple years. And that's a this is a thing that we have constantly on our minds as we work on this. And as you've seen from the numbers, we're managing at the moment, we're managing to run it all from everyday donations. But this is really the important thing, because what matters when you're running Fred Hyde schools is to have the schools open. It's to have the students there, it's to have them learning. That is the important thing. It's the measure of success. So the reason it's coming together at the minute is just gifts in wills and other funding sources, but gifts in wills are the ones at the minute. They cover the gap in school funding at this stage. Fred Hyde Schools has been also given shares in a recent will, and we're establishing an investment subcommittee to manage this and to lower the risk there. And we will look at prudent, careful ways to edge up returns on our fixed interest reserves, because again, that helps stabilize everything and keep the schools open every year. And this is so important. And we see also grants as an opportunity to build our revenue base. We've had a couple of goes at going for grants. Those haven't been successful during the year. But on the other hand, this could still be a good opportunity, particularly if we're able to actually talk with the grant givers and to actually really understand what they're looking for in an application. So that's something that we could, if people have any expertise in grant applications, we're always willing and very, very willing with grants to actually have somebody else advise us on how to do this and maybe help. So that would be great. So I want to, at the end, just say a big thank you to our supporters. It is wonderful to have you with us. It's wonderful to still have you with us. And if you're able to spread the word at all, it's a big thing, because the reality is we operate in a very different way to a lot of the big charities. We achieve what we say we're doing. And if you can spread the word to any of your friends, colleagues, contacts, that would be great. We have assets to help with that. We have a promotional kind of sharing kit we put together. And if you're able to actually talk to others, that's great. And particularly important for us, because you know, you're not going to see us on TV because we won't spend donor money on Australian fundraising. We simply don't do it. So we rely on, really, this word of mouth to keep us going. And so if you have any questions, then feel free, fire away. And I thought you'd just like that little close-up.
Let's check this out. No questions yet.
Okay. Okay, I will pass back to Olav at this point.
Thanks very much, Tony. Look, yesterday, I just want to mention this in case I forget it later, but yesterday the committee met for the whole day for the first planning meeting that we've held for a number of years. You know, our monthly committee meetings tend to go for at least 2 to 3 hours on a Monday night, once a month. But yesterday we devoted a whole day just to talking strategy and planning on some key areas. And I want to particularly do a shout out to Sue, who pushed and handled the agenda setting for that day. It was an incredibly successful day, not least, I must admit, for me, because, and I believe for other members of the committee who sometimes lag in motivation, but to listen to my fellow committee members talking, coming up with ideas, the dedication to put their butts in a seat for the best part of a whole day, including our team in Warwick that you see on the screen there. It was just very, very moving for me. But the highlight of the day was when Borhan said something I've never heard him say before, and I've actually never heard articulated that way, but it's a key message. And it is this: Borhan works through Let's Work for Bangladesh. So it's a charity that collects Australian money and delivers it to targeted places of need, but he also vets those opportunities, vets those partners that he works with to make sure that they're delivering on their promises. So he works with a number of organisations, but perhaps most prominently in that role, he works with us, with COVID. And he said yesterday that of all the organisations he's aware of in Bangladesh, and he knows a lot, we are number one in terms of integrity, in terms of our efficiency in delivering help, in giving value for money out of donors' funds. That was incredibly meaningful for me. I think I'm going to get emotional more than once today, so I apologise in advance. Maybe I'm just a bit tired, and that's doing it to me. All right, so having said that, I might just introduce the man himself, Borhan, who's going to talk about that integrity question. So take it away, Borhan. Make sure you unmute yourself.
Good afternoon and good morning, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us. Fundraising, I guess, is one thing, and we can raise $1 million or $1 trillion, which would be good, by the way, if we could. But the most important thing is how do we spend it, whether it's going to the right place at the right time, and whether it's utilized properly. So I would be covering the system for handling complaints in Bangladesh. I think with our schools, we have around, as you know, 40 primary schools and 18 preschools. And if you look at the map, you can see that it's in a widespread area, either on the outlying islands or on the edges of Bhola's far south, where road infrastructure is very poor. In some of those places, you can either reach by a boat or a motorbike. So that's where we sit, and monitoring these schools is not an easy task. So we have a complaints process in Bangladesh to ensure that we have transparency, we have accountability within the institutions, and it also provides an opportunity for our stakeholders to raise any concerns or issues with us through a structured channel, and express concerns, report misconduct, or seek resolutions, which is very, very important. So what I would do now is I would probably go through the Fred Hyde School hierarchy. Olive, do you have that slide where we have the Fred Hyde School?
No, I've
okay. You've changed a bit. Yes. Okay.
So yeah, I've just focused on the bottom end of rather than the Australian end. Okay.
Okay. All right. So we have the operations team, which is myself, Olive, Iqbal, and Patty, and we run the operations, day-to-day decision making, any emergency situation, disciplinary actions, those sort of stuff. And below us, we have Atika, Fahim, and then the Char Fasson office and all the schools. So we have inspectors who actually visits our schools. They can be at any school at any time during the working hours. Sometimes they are at the school 10 minutes before, and sometimes they can even visit the school 2 to 3 times a day. This is so that the school thinks that even though an inspection is done, they might be here again. And that is how we actually do the monitoring. And what they look for primarily is whether the teachers are there on time, whether the school is opening at 8, closing at 4, where the classes are going as per the schedule. Now, during the heavy monsoon, it really becomes difficult for our Char Fashion team to, in number of schools, to do inspections by visiting them, especially during the heavy rain period, and sometimes the rain is non-stop for 3, 4, 5 days. So what we do at that stage is we have phone monitoring system. In other words, myself, Iqbal, Atika, Fahim, or someone from the Char Fashion team will call a school headmaster or any other staff member, and we'll ask, okay, pass on the phone. And if the person is at school, obviously they would receive the call. If not, then that's a separate issue. And when we do those spot checks, we also do a quick knowledge check. We ask teachers some random questions, from their textbooks and stuff like that. In terms of the complaints handling process, one of the things we try to make sure is anyone from Char Fashion can reach Australia very easily without any barriers. And I think in almost every community, they have my and Iqbal's phone number. They have our email addresses, and they can reach us. At night time, I make sure I switch on my internet. Unfortunately, still sometimes I get a call at like 2 a.m. at night, and it's very risky to switch the phone off. It doesn't happen that much nowadays, but it does happen. And sometimes we receive some serious complaints. For example, inappropriate touching and stuff like that. And when something like that happens or any other complaints, if it's serious, there are at least 2 to 3 independent investigations that is conducted by myself, Iqbal, it might be another staff member. And generally what I've learned over the years is when we investigate a complaint, if it's about a school teacher, we would actually have all of them together. Because before we have found once we try to deal with one, generally he brings up a couple of other things. Then by the time we go to the other teachers or the other person, it becomes very difficult. So number one, we actually do a video call so that we can see their body language, and so that if there is a complaint against someone else, they can defend themselves. So that's how we are managing, and it has been a huge success. Sometimes even before a office hears about something, we actually have the news in Australia landing in our Facebook message box, or we receive a message or photos on WhatsApp. So it has been working quite great. And to give the members of the community in Char Fashion confidence, what we tell them is, if we receive a complaint in Australia, we never ever share the details of the people in Bangladesh with our office staff. And that way, if it's a parent of a student, they know that there won't be any repercussions with their children who might be at our school. So we give them that confidence, and it's very important for us to know exactly what's happening on the ground. And we have to be very careful about the complaints, because sometimes these complaints are manufactured, and it has happened. For example, a few days back, we received a complaint about any inappropriate touching, and upon further investigations, we found out when we were interviewing the parents and the students, they were all saying all these different stories, and we knew straight away, like, it doesn't add up, nothing adds up actually. So we really, really have to be careful. So finally, I would just finish with one example that happened a few days back, where the headmasters actually have a meeting every month at the office, and they are supposed to go back to the school after the meeting, and the staff at our office, they suddenly, I think somehow a suspicion, they got suspicious and they started phone monitoring and they called one of the headmaster. They called him 5 times, couldn't get hold of him. And the assistant headmaster, who is supposed to let the office know that the headmaster didn't come back, didn't act either. We received a message straight away from Bangladesh that something has gone wrong. And generally, after my office, every day after 5:30, from the car, I do a quick call, with the staff and see if there is anything urgent. So I spoke to all the teachers. Now, when I asked the headmaster, why didn't you respond to 5, 6 calls from the office? His answer was, my wife is pregnant, and pause. The next thing was he had toothache. And I said, what happened the next day? Why didn't you get back at your earliest convenience? He was unable to provide any answers. And then I asked the assistant headmaster, why didn't you let the office know, which you are supposed to do? He has been with us for 8 to 10 years. And he said, I wasn't aware of the policy. So we saw that they are not trying to cooperate. They are not trying to take responsibilities. So straight away, we gave them a 3-month suspension without salary. And then we sent a message through the whole network. Please do not act in this way. It's what we are doing is in the benefit of children, and we would take serious action. So this is how we operate, and sometimes we are tough, and we have to be tough. And this is only because of this policy of open complaints from Bangladesh and having, a very transparent policy where we communicate with them and also let them know about the outcomes and their duties and responsibilities. This is how I strongly believe we have made Kuwait 99.99% corruption free. For a country like Bangladesh, this is almost impossible. And best of all, we have a committee who actually understands, and Olive is one of them, because sometimes the perspective in Australia and the perspective in Bangladesh is completely different. It's very, very different. I will just finish with one example, and sorry if I'm talking too much. Sometimes we talk about this child marriage, which we all know shouldn't happen, should be prevented, and it's not a good thing. But when you check the reality on the ground with some of the people that don't have safe shelter, and it has happened that people has got in, there was unfortunate cases of rape, and in a situation like that, what the parents want is they tend towards early marriage. So these are challenges like that we actually need to understand. I'm in no way supporting child marriage or anything like that. I'm just showcasing some reality on the ground. But that's how we have been managing, and sometimes it's a bit of emotional toll on us as well when we see, okay, something bad has happened with our children. The trend is very, very low now, but then it makes us question ourselves whether we are doing the right thing. I also have a son who goes to a primary school and in year 3. So far, I think we have been doing well. There is more to do. I think the next thing is the quality of education. But I sincerely thank all the supporters, and thanks to the committee who does a tremendous job. Thank you.
Thank you, Borhan. And it's the system that Borhan and Iqbal in particular have created, and backed up by our team in Char Fasson, backed up by Atika, who's joined us this year as a volunteer, having previously been an employee with us, is quite complex and multi-pronged. And every year, obviously, I visit Bangladesh at least twice a year, and I get to face the consequences of the decisions that we make as at the ops level, you know. So I have to meet the sacked people or the people who've been transferred from one school to another, and so I have to conduct my own final check to see that all is well. And, you know, almost never over the years that I've been doing it have I found that we've made a mistake, you know, that we've made a terrible mistake. And if we have made a mistake on those occasions, we do reverse it. So we recognise we can be wrong. But thank you so much, Borhan, for that. I might just turn to the other thing I just quickly will mention before, in case I forget, is the video element. You know, videos are now being done by everyone and their dog, so we often get video evidence of surreptitiously people videoing other people in the school, etc. It's not a great trend, but we do also do our own videos of teachers performing in class, etc. And the video evidence is, and live video using WhatsApp does enable an extra dimension to our investigations as well. All right, so turning to what sounds on the surface to be super boring, which is payroll, but isn't, and it's actually a very important part of the integrity that Borhan talks about. I'd like to introduce Sue, who has been for quite a number of years now handling the payroll side of things. And Sue, I will still show one or two slides while you're talking because I don't know how to highlight you, and I don't want to learn at this stage. I don't know how to highlight your face, so apologies for that, Sue. Go for it.
That's all right. My face doesn't really need to be highlighted. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody, from what is now not as cold a day in Melbourne as it was yesterday. I was justified in the planning meeting, it seems, in turning on my heater because yesterday's temperature was the lowest temperature we've had in November since 1913. So there was a good reason for me to be very cold yesterday. Yes, I've been involved, just very quickly to give you a quick history of my involvement. I helped the students of the school I was teaching at in 1993, very early days, when Fred walked into our school, challenged us to build one. Over the years, we built 3 schools and a kindergarten, and I worked with the students in their fundraising efforts. And I must admit, apart from advantaging the students in Bangladesh, it really made a difference to the Australian students here to understand how privileged they were, because I worked in a private school as compared to children in other places in the world. Although I do the payroll, in case you didn't realise, if you happen to email contact@Fred Hyde, I'm the person at the end of the email. And if you happen to ring the 1300 number, I'm the person at the end of the phone who talks to you. Now you can see a small version of my face online. In listening to what Borhan and Olav have been saying, it makes me more in awe of how Fred used to handle things over there, because in his time, we've got to remember it was pre-email capacity, pre-online banking, it was pre-Zoom, pre-smartphones, pre the World Wide Web, and even in many areas pre-electricity. So when Fred paid the teachers, it was done in cash, but that cash went through a number of hands. The office workers used to go to the bank and withdraw what would have been to them an extremely large amount of money. They would go back to the office, dole out the right amounts to a headmaster of every school. The headmasters would then go back to the school and distribute between the teachers at the school. So you can imagine that there's much capacity in that system for some wrongdoing, shall we call it. So when Fred died, Olav is, he is a button for hard work and punishment. He started doing the payroll. And I said to him, oh, for goodness sake, you can't take on another job, Olav, I'll do it. So I took over the payroll. And since then, we've created a system which I believe is 100% foolproof, in that the right money gets to the right people. And most of the time, at the right time. Oh, that's one of my files. Yes, I manage a huge spreadsheet, which doesn't bother me because having been a maths teacher, numbers are my friends, so that's fine. But on the 20th of each month, I receive a report from the workers in the office, from the office workers, and they list for me and they summarise for me any sort of salary changes that have occurred. Now, you heard Borhan mention fines. Yes, the fines that the ops team put forward come to me in a summary, and I adjust the monthly salary accordingly. Sometimes those adjustments include the extended leaves that teachers might have taken because they get 12 days of paid leave over and above the normal school holidays and public holidays. And if they take more than that 12 days, it's a fairly hefty fine, more than a day's pay. And that's been designed to encourage them to spread their 12 days over the year. Although this time of the year, of course, we're in November, December, those fines are usually quite busy because people have taken more than 12 days and they lose money accordingly. The ops team, as Borhan suggested, allocate fines each month for misbehaviour. And we try to make sure that the communication is fast enough is that once that fine has been administered or talked about, they lose that money in the very next term. So it's an instant punishment, so to speak. The fines, I don't necessarily find out the reason for those fines. I'm just involved in how much I need to take out of the pay. And but I do keep a record on my spreadsheet, so I get some idea, particularly of when teachers leave. We do have a team of relief teachers, very much like the system here, where they're paid a daily rate. So it's a little bit more than the permanent staff because they only are paid for the days that they work. Our female staff have 2 months full pay on maternity leave, so I have to track that. But each month I can adjust the spreadsheet accordingly and with the notes. Then there's a file very much like this, although I noticed by looking at those numbers down the right-hand side, that section of the file hasn't involved any salary change. The 15,263 you see at the top is a headmaster's wage, but I'll talk Australian dollars. That's roughly $220 a month. The deputy underneath, 14,295. That's about $204 a month. It varies, of course, according to the exchange rate. I'm using 70 taka to the dollar roughly. The general teachers, that's the 13,607 amount. That works out to be about 194. Or as I say, when I talk to a lot of schools that are still supporting Fred Hyde schools, that averages out at about $10 a day. So I offer the Australian teachers a job on the spot and don't get any takers. So $10 a day for a teacher, it's not much at all, is it? The kindergarten money, that's the 5,000 amount you see on that slide. That's about $72 a month, but they work for half a day in kindergarten. The office personnel, the inspectors, the executive officers or coordinators in Dhaka, Attica and Fahim, when they were both being paid, they get more than the teacher's wage. And also for the teachers that teach on remote islands, you saw on the map previously where there were some schools on separate little islands, they also get about an extra 10% on those figures because it's a remote location, it's more difficult. But as the years have gone by, I've been paying more than just a monthly salary, taking away more and more of the cash payments that used to occur and introducing more of the integrity that Borhan was talking about. The headmasters get an allowance for travelling to the headmasters' meeting and a travel allowance. The office staff get phone allowances every month that get sent separately. Teachers who have left, there's a Providence Fund payment that we make, depending on the number of years of service that they've given us. And even school expenses to the headmasters' meetings, sometimes the money towards their sports days, mothers' meetings, etc. We also maintain in a totally different account what we call the Hamilton account, and that's money that's been put aside, given to us by a very generous donor over the years, Liz Hamilton. That's why it's named that, of course, where she wanted her donation to go to students for scholarships beyond the primary school. And most of our recipients of those scholarships are ones that have gone on to some sort of tertiary education. There's a few girls in nursing. There's a couple of guys at university. Borhan could give me the exact detail of what they're studying because I've forgotten. But mainly we consider their financial situation. The extreme poverty of some students means they couldn't go on to tertiary education. They're clever enough to go on. We are supporting them thanks to Liz Hamilton. So that is a separate account, and those payments are made into their accounts, whether they're studying on Bhola or in Dhaka. The scholarship amounts, I handle that as well. I said that usually about the 20th of each month I get these lists. That's so that we can hopefully pay them and have a payday on the 27th of every month. Sometimes it's a little bit late because there's often very much communication going on between me and the office. Can you clarify this, or what's happened here, or oh my goodness, there's been a late fine, can you include that? But I like to try and make a payment date of 27th because I am very much aware that anything after the 27th, the money's not there, and they need it. I mean, like any school in Australia, our payroll total is about 95% of the cost of running the schools. It's the same as Australia. It looks like a lot when it's in thousands, but to know that we're getting teachers for $200 a month, to me, it's continually been mind-blowing. So that's very quickly the system in which we use now. So it's a system that works extremely well, as long as I get the numbers right. And Attica, if she's listening, I can only thank her for her unbelievable eagle eye in picking out any errors that I make. So between us, we send something that's 100% correct. But she does the similar thing and keeps these records so that we can cross-check with each other, which has been fantastic. And she's still doing it now. She's a volunteer. So thank you, Attica, especially, and thanks to everybody else for their support. It's yet another example of how far your money goes. So I will close with my thanks to all the donors, and hope to chat with you over the phone sometime. Thank you. I didn't know how many slides. Oh, yeah, that's all right. That's not me.
Yeah, that's great, Sue. Thank you very much. Just wanted to introduce that component of what we do because, look, again, Sue is handling what would be a substantial position at an Australian school or an Australian private school system, and she's doing it voluntary, and it's costing the donors $0. It's an Excel spreadsheet on her home computer, and that's how it's working. Internet banking hasn't yet come to Bangladesh, not at the particular bank that we deal with, which is the Rupali Bank. But anyway, look, I guess at this stage it comes time for me to kind of sum up the year. And this year it's more me summing up the gaps between the reports that have already been delivered. So I won't be focusing on the full range of things that we do in Bangladesh. And believe me, if we did, we'd be here all day because the full range is very substantial indeed. I just wanted to talk a little bit to start off to talk about the challenge of operating, which Borhan talked about when he talked about the map of Bangladesh and how we operate literally around the edges of an island which is on the edge of Bangladesh. So it's the edge of the edge that we're dealing with. And if you see these three islands here, these chunks of mud, on the right, there's one called Shundip, which still exists to this day and still named the same. And then there's Hatia, the one in the middle, and the one on the left, which is called something that it isn't called today, is the island of Bhola. And this was roughly when white people came to Australia. This was the map of the part of the British Empire. I think it predated the empire slightly, but that part of that world that we operate in today. The reason I wanted to mention that is you can see the massive water around these three islands. Take a look at that. That is the shape. So go back to that. That's the shape of Bhola then. This is the shape of Bhola now. It's elongated and become almost a banana-like in terms of shape. And that causes extraordinary change change as a permanent thing in this part of the world. It's continually shifting. The island, as I've mentioned previously, is shifting 70 metres to the south every year. And I occasionally talk to people whose houses no longer exist on country that no longer exists. Real estate is real estate, but some of it's now very, very watery indeed. I wanted to focus, and I'm hoping that I will get audio here, but I might just turn the audio down for this one. So I just want to focus on one of our schools, and I hope that you're able to see that with I realise it's not going to be smooth, the video, but this is part of the island, part of the edge of the island, and that's one of our schools that you can see there. And in the background there, you can see a dike that's been built out of mud, because that's all you've got to build it with. And that dike is to the left of this photo, and this is the mighty Tutulia River. And that's me.
So I'm standing on the
I will turn myself down if I can.
which is not.
Yeah. That's me standing on the edge, which used to be farmland. And that farmland has been gradually whittled away. Now, our school is on the wrong side of the dike. So the government has abandoned this country, this part of the country, because they can't stop the water. It's literally eroding and abrading the land in a way that cannot be prevented. They've built a line of defence, and unfortunately, we're built on the wrong side of the line of defence. So school number 32, as I have come to call it, which is a bit rude, it has a proper name, is on the wrong side of the dike. Now, this part of the photo, which isn't very, very good, showing the tops of the heads, it was to remind me of one of the great donations that we've received locally, or in-kind donations, other than all the work that committee members do. This guy in the singlet, you can see he's got a little bit more weight than the average Bangladeshi, and that's because he's a little richer than the average Bangladeshi. You can measure wealth in kilograms in Bangladesh. This chap came forward when he heard of our plight and offered to donate a piece of land on the right side of the dike, on the dry side of the dike, so to speak. That land is worth in upwards of $10,000. It's big enough for us to put a school, kindergarten, toilets, and a tube well. So big enough, and that particular school absolutely deserves to be saved. It's going to cost us, $15,000 to $20,000 to build a new school, but that school deserves to be saved. Not that any school doesn't, but this school is particularly close to my heart because I've seen it gradually get whittled away. Years ago, the locals were saying, "Oh, this school's in trouble, this school's in trouble." I said, "What do you mean this school's in trouble? I can't see the river." Now you can see the river. And when I visited the school, I literally went, and I'm not a short person, I literally went knee-deep through water to get to it. And that school, knee-deep in water, still has packed with kids. And almost 100%, even on monsoon days, still turn up. We've got a wonderful headmaster there, and he does a great job of giving the children something to look forward to come to school. And it's not the building, it's a miserable building. It's an incredible testament to the power of some great teachers. So that was one story I want to highlight that it highlights the kind of in-kind donations we received. Now, I did see on screen, I don't know if I can still see him, I'm just going to go have a look. Yes, Ahmed. Ahmed is there. I'm really pleased that Ahmed is there because Ahmed I contacted Ahmed through a online freelancing system, and we paid him a nominal amount of money to help us get our Bangladeshi records into a enterprise resource planning software called Udo. Normally, we got some quotes in Bangladesh that were ridiculously big money. Like I think it was $10,000, $20,000. Ahmed did the basics for, I believe, from memory, about $1,000. Now, I have to mention out that a couple of the committee members heard about me. I paid for it because it was a risk. I said, I'll pay for it myself. A couple of committee members actually dug in their own pocket and paid me back a fair proportion of what I paid. Now, the reason I mention this is because Ahmed did the job for 1/10 what Bangladeshis would do it from, and he's from Bahrain, and he's continued to provide sterling support to getting this Udo system running and handling everything from school attendances to complaint systems, and even accounts are now being shifted over to Udo. Eventually, we will have an integrated system. That's the point of this kind of software. Boring subject, but really illustrative of when people hear about our message, the extent they're prepared to go to help. So I really want to give a big shout out to Ahmed. It gives you a little peek into the insides of it. We can see the attendance, boys and girls split up and different schools. And what I wanted to do next is turn to something that another one of our volunteers has done, and that is the well-known Atika. And Atika is, of course, extremely nervous about presenting, but I told her she had to this morning, and I didn't give her any time to get too nervous. So Atika, you take it away.
Yeah. Yes, that was actually unfair to me because I was just waiting to be an audience, not was prepared to say anything at all. This is not something I really like to do, as you know. So, good morning, everyone. It is actually good evening in America. Some of you might know that I'm doing my master's in America at University of Notre Dame in governance and policy. So, yeah, I want to thank each and every one of you who took your time to join us for the AGM, and your presence and support. It truly means a lot to us. And I'm sorry because public speaking just makes me so nervous. So just overlook whatever I'm stammering or not. So so I have to talk about something that we recently introduced. That is, over the last few years, many people actually have reached out to us asking about how they can donate and how they can be a part of this journey, especially those who are in Bangladesh. So I'm excited to share that we got the approval from the NGO Bureau to accept local donation. And to make it super simple, we actually having the merchant account in Bikash, which is the leading mobile financial services in Bangladesh. So you can see the QR code on the screen, and if you are in Bangladesh, you can just scan the QR code or just put the number on your phone, and then you can send money to us. And if you are living outside Bangladesh like me, I mean, I am using the other financial services to send money through Bikash, and it's really super simple. So you can use like Wise, Western Union, and Remitly. If I think Remitly is in America. So we actually decided to use Bikash because it is super simple and convenient, and people those who doesn't have any bank account, they have the Bikash account in their phone, so it is very convenient. And so yeah, I think I don't have to talk too much about it. So you know that every taka, every dollar makes a difference. So be a part of this journey, and we would really appreciate if you help us continue transforming lives through education. And I don't know whether I should say this. I mean, I want to add something here. Like at Fred Hyde schools, we want every money, every dollar, every taka to go directly to the children who need it the most. So that's why we don't want to spend money in extensive promotion or marketing. And that's why your support means a lot to us. So we rely entirely on word of mouth. And so our supporters actually working like our most valuable form of outreach partner. So we'd really appreciate if you share about our mission in Bangladesh with everyone you know. And you can
And
see
that's it.
the account number. It's a merchant account, so before donating, you can always check and verify the account name. Thank you, Olaf. I'm sorry if it's not good.
Atika, you promised that you would say a few words in Bangla.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know who will know Bangla here. So
There's people who know Bangla. You see Borhan on the screen. He will know Bangla.
and Borhan Bhai knows English as well. So I don't know what to say in Bangla. So I
All
mean,
right.
okay,
Well,
so maybe I should say something in Bangladesh. আমরা চাই যে আপনারা আমাদেরকে আমাদের এই জার্নিতে আমাদের সাথে থাকেন। আপনারা বাংলাদেশে আপনারা যারা এখানে বাংলাদেশি আছেন, আপনারা অবশ্যই বাংলাদেশে যারা আপনাদের পরিবার পরিজন বন্ধু বান্ধব আছে তাদের সাথে আপনারা যদি কোভিডের কথা শেয়ার করেন তাহলে আমরা অনেক খুশি হব এবং 10 টাকা থেকে 100 টাকা 1000 টাকা এভরি টাকা ম্যাটার্স থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ
no, that wasn't too hard, Atika. That wasn't too hard. Thank you very much,
you
Atika.
don't know it is too hard for me I'm not good at it I can't do it.
No, I really appreciate it. And I have to say, on a slightly negative note, that since Atika's gone to America, my workload has increased exponentially, which gives you an indication of how extraordinarily valuable she has been for the organisation, especially for me to survive in Bangladesh. So I'm about to head over there fairly soon, and I'm not looking forward to doing it without her help. But we do have help from Fahim, who's been mentioned a couple of times, and I'm looking forward to working with him closely. So other than Udu, which I mentioned, and Bcash, we also use Facebook. Borhan mentioned that. So we use Facebook for a number of different things. But in particular, we have private groups where we are able to communicate direct with teachers. We have headmasters groups. We have ops groups. And Facebook is extremely dominant in Bangladesh. If you want to get anything done, you really need to be on Facebook. I just wanted to quickly show you, because it is kind of cool. We've got an album on Facebook for all our teachers. And this will give you a little bit of a sense of how many people we've got working for us. And this isn't all of them, by the way, but I just want to show their faces as well today. And it's a simple way of keeping information together in Facebook, but it's not quite as secure and flexible as Udu will be. I also want to point out that we use tools, and I think Borhan mentioned this as well, which is WhatsApp. So we're now collecting daily attendance. Previously, we would only collect attendance when there was an inspector visits on the motorbike, but now we're getting daily numbers, which we can verify because we might call them on WhatsApp and ask them to show the phone. And sometimes Paddy, when he's around there, he actually goes through and counts heads. So we're doing verification all the time. And these are all free tools, and we're becoming quite sophisticated, but without adding to our bottom line at all. So obviously the way that we sell COVID to people, the way we talk about it is we talk about it in terms of value for money. We talk about it as a shoestring charity. I just wanted to talk a little bit more soberly about the other end. Now, you remember those numbers that Ben presented earlier showing that our overall reserves only went down by $28,000 out of a total of $1.3-ish million. Now, that bottom line is very good. If we keep losing money at this rate, we'll be well into the next century before we run out of money. Now, that's how it sounds, right? But the reality is not quite as good as that. And I do want to talk about the other side to it. So in order to get that result these last couple of years, what we have done is things that I'm not particularly comfortable with doing. So for 2 years now, we haven't raised salaries in Bangladesh. And that's despite cost of living increases that are there just as well as they are here. We haven't given Eid bonuses this last year, which is, if you're a government worker, you get double the salary during the 2 festival year periods. We haven't given those Eid bonuses. Big saving for us. And we also haven't put lump sums into the welfare or provident or superannuation accounts for the last 2 years. None of these particular measures make us happy, but it's the kind of stuff that we do out of caution, you know. We are being cautious because we do want to endure, we do want to sustain, we do attempt to keep on keeping on, and this is the 10th year that we've done so since Fred retired. So I just want to talk about, or briefly touch upon, the costs of balancing the budget, which does give extra urgency to us to continue to improve our fundraising efforts. On a more cheerful note, I just wanted to quickly flick through something we did quite differently on the Bangladeshi staff end. So this year in January, we held a staff awards. And Atika, I and the management team in Char Fasson and even the ops team sat down and selected some people that we wanted to give a special pat on the back to. And there's me looking, as usual, incredibly cool and incredibly well-groomed and incredibly comfortable doing these things, handing out these what are called crests. So there were no cash prizes associated with it. It was just recognition. So we had a best attendance school where attendance was consistently above 90%. We had a co-ed culture award. We just came up with names for it. But this particular headmaster, he sells old books and other materials from the school and uses the money to buy materials for the school. So he operates his own little P&C committee, and it's a really incredible initiative on his part. The Co-ed Fighting Spirit Award was our most oldest and most vulnerable school. You can see literally the sandbags between it and the Bay of Bengal. And the Tech Savvy Award to Abu, who is a bit of a freelancer in his own time doing tech stuff, but he's actually done some tech work, voluntary again, for the organisation that helps us run more smoothly. I want to particularly focus on this lady. You know, she's a very good, solid teacher, but what really struck us about it and why we gave it the Co-ed Courage Award, she crossed the river every day, that Tuchulia River that can, in certain weather, become very choppy and really quite dangerous. There's drownings every single year on that river. She crosses that every single day, even in shitty weather, to go to her school. So we felt that deserved recognition. The Community Spirit Award went to a particular headmaster who really helped when his school was being rebuilt. That's Paddy there in the background supervising. But believe me, Paddy actually gets his hands dirty. He doesn't just stand there pointing to things that need to be done. Kinder Teacher of the Year, you know, she produces a lovely spirit inside her school. And so, you know, we created a number of categories. That's something we're going to continue to do, to try to, you know, provide, if we can't afford to give big wage rises, we really need to at least afford to be able to give recognition, support to our schools and our teachers. You know, we do have things like, we do have our own self-run health fund to assist when there's serious health issues. And we do have, as I said, the superannuation system. It's crude and currently a little bit underfunded, but it's important because people get older and there is no welfare system in Bangladesh. So now I want to talk, we're getting there in terms of what we need to get through. So don't worry, we're almost done. This part of the talk, I haven't prepared what I'm going to say, so everything I say now, don't hold it against me. But you know, it's a very difficult place to operate. We wouldn't be there if it was easy. It's a hard place, and one of the difficulties with it is logistics. It's an island, it has an island culture, and if you ask locals about the personality of the people of this island, they say we're island people, we resist change. And, you know, as a committee, in addition to just building and filling schools and running schools, we do have ambitions to do more than just that. We want our schools to be excellent. And over the years, we've known that our schools are better than the government schools. Better partly because of Bohan and the vigilance that we offer to make sure that the teachers actually turn up to school. So we incentivise children turning up to school, we incentivise teachers turning up to school. The next step after eliminating corruption and all these good basic stuff that we've done is for us to start thinking about quality. Now, I just wanted to show you this map. And this map is one that I've only encountered fairly recently. I produced a report for the committee just digging deep into the data, co-ed data and national data. And I came away from it both very much sobered, if I can say that, you know, by the challenge that we face, but also reassured that we are doing the right thing in the right place. So you can see the Myanmar refugee area to the bottom right there in dark. This is the dropout rates. In that area, super poor. And you can see the area of Bhola is almost all in the most extreme rate of dropouts from schools. If you go to the next slide, you can see that the yellow area is the survival rate. So again, Cox's Bazar, Myanmar refugees, and Bhola are the worst areas in Bangladesh. Now, if you were to zoom in, that kind of granular data is not available, but if you were to zoom in onto Bhola, you could also produce a colour scale showing where the situation was even worse than in the island itself. And around the edges, on those peripheral islands, is exactly where the problem occurs. Now, I dug deep into the data this year, and the data doesn't lie. The data shows that you've got, within primary school, so we're talking very little boys, dropout rates, once you get through grade 2, 3, and 4, boys are dropping out and going to work. They're not even half grown. They're little boys, and they're staying home pretty well every day to work. And it's not because if you go to Dhaka and you look at boys versus girls, you don't see that problem. The boys and the girls stick it through primary school. But the poorer areas you go, and we are in the poorest of the poor, the boys are dropping out at worrying rates. Even the girls are dropping out at worrying rates. Boys are going to work, and a lot of the girls, as Bohan touched on, even towards the end of primary school, are getting into marriage. Now, none of this is good. One of the things that we want to do, of course, is make the schools a more pleasant place to come to. We would love if we've currently got a budget somewhere around the 400 to 500,000 a year, and that's tight. If we could get 50% higher budget, maybe 100% higher budget, we could feed kids every day. And I said to the committee yesterday, I believe if we could feed the children every day, we would keep 100%. We would have virtually no dropout. And we would keep all the boys and all the girls, and the parents we'd have very high attendance rates. Money, in this sense, would magically solve what is a very complex problem. It wouldn't solve everything, but it would solve a lot. So the challenge we face is that. Now, even if we manage to get the kids to school, there's a second challenge that we face, and that is improving the quality of our teachers. Now, the teachers work hard and they trudge through mud and they bicycle long distances to get to these schools. Some of them travel 45 minutes on bumpy, muddy roads on bicycles to get to school. I don't doubt their dedication, but we are struggling a little bit to change some of the habits, the teaching habits of these schools. So rote learning is very much the norm. Trying to get them to stop doing rote learning is really difficult. Trying to make learning more live and real world, very, very difficult. Having it memory-based seems to be the default option. Because it's an island, we do struggle with shaking that attitude. So that's a challenge for the committee going forward, is what can we do to not just quantity of education, but quality. I think it's something I've mentioned in previous AGMs as well. Now, to finish, so I'm about to finish, I'm going to do something that we haven't done before. We asked staff to create some short videos on student excellence. And Fahim, based in Chittagong, he's the Deputy Executive Coordinator, effectively taking over a lot of Atika's work now that she's in America. So Fahim's a very, very good social media and videographer worker, and also one of our inspectors has produced the raw video for this. Nuralam, big shout out to him. He is an absolute whiz. He's an absolute whiz with the camera. So let's have a look at, and I'll turn up the volume now. Let's have a look at some of these videos. They're about 1.5 minutes long. I think there's 6 or 7 of them. So we're about 9 minutes to go. I just want to quickly point out in relation to that video that those drawings were actually, they're not colouring in that the young lady has done. They're actually, she did those drawings and coloured them in. And the other thing that's great about it is the link between her ability to colour and do those paintings and her ability to write. It's a message we're struggling a little bit to get through to some parents in Bhola, that art is worthwhile for art's sake, obviously, but also art is worthwhile because it helps children control the pen better and have better mastery with their hands in general. But that young lady was just a great example of that. This is an interview between Borhan and one of our former students.
রাজিয়া, তোমাকে স্বাগত। তোমার কাছে আমার প্রথম প্রশ্ন, তুমি কোথায় এখন পড়াশোনা করছো এবং কিসে পড়াশোনা?
আমি ঢাকা উত্তরা এমকে ইন্টারন্যাশনাল নার্সিং কলেজে ডিপ্লোমা সেকেন্ড ইয়ারে পড়াশোনা করছি।
3 বছরের কোর্স?
জি।
তুমি কি আমাদেরকে তোমার ম্যাট্রিক এবং ইন্টারমিডিয়েট রেজাল্ট দেখতে হবে?
আমার মেট্রিক হচ্ছে 1085 আর ইন্টারমিডিয়েট হচ্ছে দ্বিতীয় পাই।
দ্যাটস ভেরি গুড। তোমার এমনি নার্সিং পড়াশোনা কেমন লাগে?
আলহামদুলিল্লাহ ভালো লাগে, যেটা মানুষ সেবা ভালো লাগে। আমরা নিজের পরিবার প্লাস অন্যের পরিবারের পাশে দাঁড়াতে পারতেছি, তাদের সুখ দেখতেছি, তাদের সেবা করতেছি, ভালো লাগে।
তুমি পাশ করার পরে কি করার ইচ্ছা তোমার? তুমি কি সরকারি পরীক্ষা দিবা হসপিটালে জয়েন করার জন্য?
আমার প্রথম ইচ্ছা হচ্ছে বাহিরে যে কোনো একটা কান্ট্রিতে যাওয়ার, আমার এই প্রফেশনটা নিয়ে। এটা হচ্ছে আমার প্রথম ইচ্ছা। যদি আমার আল্লাহ যদি তৌফিক দেয় তাহলে হচ্ছে আমি বাইরে যাওয়ার চেষ্টা করবো। যদি না হয় তাহলে সেক্ষেত্রে দেশে আর কি চিন্তা ভাবনা করবো। তো প্রথম চিন্তা হচ্ছে বাইরে যাওয়ার।
তুমি আমাদের কোয়েট স্কুল থেকে পাশ করেছো? আচ্ছা, আমাদের কোয়েট স্কুলের শিক্ষক এবং আমাদের বাচ্চাদেরকে কিছু বলতে চাও?
আমার সর্বপ্রথম কথা হচ্ছে আমার স্যার ম্যাম ওনাদের প্রতি আমার অনেক অনেক আন্তরিকতা এবং কৃতজ্ঞতা। তারা আমাদেরকে না শিখালে আমরা শিখতে পারতাম না। আমাদের হাতে ধরিয়ে ওনারা শিখে প্রথম আমাদের এই একটা বিল্ডিং করতে গেলে আগে যেরকম একটা ফাউন্ডেশন দরকার হয়, ওনারা আমাদেরকে এই ফাউন্ডেশন হিসাবে গাইডলাইন দিয়ে তিরিশ ওনাদের কারণে আমরা এই পর্যায়ে আসতে পারছি। এই জন্য স্যারদের কাছে অনেক কৃতজ্ঞ এবং স্যারদের
আচ্ছা, তোমাকে অসংখ্য ধন্যবাদ। সালকুম।
And next comes another video with another student, and then the final video.
আপনাদের অনুষ্ঠানে স্বাগত আতিক। আর তোমার কাছে প্রথমেই জানতে চাইবো যে তুমি কোন মেডিকেল কলেজে এবং কোন বর্ষে তুমি পড়াশোনা করছো?
আসসালামু আলাইকুম, আমি মোহাম্মদ আতিকুর রহমান। আমি গণস্বাস্থ্য সমাজভিত্তিক মেডিকেল কলেজে পঞ্চম বর্ষে লাস্ট ইয়ারে পড়াশোনা করতেছি।
তুমি আমাদের কোন স্কুলে পড়াশোনা করেছি?
চর বেসরকারি প্রাথমিক বিদ্যালয়ে পড়াশোনা করেছি।
আচ্ছা, আর তোমার কি স্কুলের কথা কিছু মনে আছে? যেমন তোমাদের সময় আমাদের স্কুলের পড়াশোনা কেমন ছিল, বিশেষ করে তোমার ওই স্কুলে? এবং সরকারি স্কুল সম্পর্কে তুমি কতটা জানো আমি জানি না, তবে তোমার কি মনে হয় যে ওই স্কুলের পড়াশোনা সরকারি প্রাথমিক বিদ্যালয় থেকে ভালো ছিল?
আসলে আমি ছোটবেলাতেই কখনো সরকারি দেখতে পাই, ওটা থেকে আমি পড়াশোনা করতেছি। মোটে ওই সময় ভালো টিচার ছিল সেখানে। বর্তমান পরিস্থিতি আমি যতটুকু জানি এখনো ভালো টিচাররা রয়েছে। আমাদের সময় ছিল বেল্লাল স্যার ছিল, লামিন স্যার ছিল, নীলম স্যার ছিল, খুবই ভালো পড়াতেন ওনারা। এবং মোটামুটি ওখানে পড়াশোনা করার পরে আমি মোটামুটি ক্লাস 3-4 থেকে ইংলিশে প্যারাগ্রাফ লিখতে পারতাম এবং নিজের মতো করে সৃজনশীলভাবে নিজে লিখতে করতাম। বলাই যায় অবশ্যই অনেক ভালো টিচার ছিলেন।
তো তোমার মেডিকেল কলেজে তোমার চ্যালেঞ্জেস কি মনে হয়, আর তুমি কোনটা এনজয় করো?
চ্যালেঞ্জ গুলো হচ্ছে যে প্রায় প্রত্যেক দিনই পরীক্ষা থাকে। প্রতিটা পরীক্ষাতে প্রত্যেকটা চ্যাপ্টার পড়ানোর পরে ওই চ্যাপ্টারের উপর পরীক্ষা হয়, ভাইভা হয়। সে ভাইভাতে 10-এর ভিতরে 6 পেতে হয়। মোটামুটি 80 থেকে 90% বা প্রায় 95% কোশ্চেন উত্তর পারলে কবি 6 দেওয়া হয়। নাহলে 6 দেওয়া হয় না। অথবা হচ্ছে এরা যদি 100% কোশ্চেন পারে তখন 7 দেওয়া হয়। কিছু এক্সট্রাঅর্ডিনারি কোশ্চেন পারলে 8 দেওয়া হয়। আমরা 8 কে বলি অনার্স মার্ক। স্বভাবতই খুব একটা অনার্স দেওয়া হয় না। বেশিরভাগ এই জিনিসগুলো হচ্ছে যে চ্যালেঞ্জ। প্রত্যেকটা পরীক্ষায় এরকম 60% মার্ক পেতে হয় এবং একটা পরীক্ষায় পাস করার আগ পর্যন্ত সে দ্বিতীয় কোনো পরীক্ষায় বুঝতে পারবে না, নাহলে তার সামনে খুব চ্যালেঞ্জ। এবং এই চ্যালেঞ্জগুলো শেষে যে প্রশান্তি, ওটাকে আমি মূলত এনজয় করি।
তোমার প্রিয় সাবজেক্ট কোনটা?
যদি গেলে পুরো মেডিকেল লাইফে তাহলে অ্যানাটমি একটা প্রিয় সাবজেক্ট, কিন্তু বর্তমানে ফিজিক্সের কথা চিন্তা করলে অবশ্যই সার্জারি আমার সবচেয়ে প্রিয় সাবজেক্ট।
তোমার ভবিষ্যৎ পরিকল্পনা কি?
ভবিষ্যৎ পরিকল্পনা হচ্ছে রাষ্ট্রীয় পর্যায়ে এখন দায়িত্ব পালন করে মেডিকেল শিক্ষিতাকে উন্নত করা বাংলাদেশের, এবং একই সাথে বাংলাদেশের শিক্ষা ব্যবস্থা উন্নত করা। কারণ বর্তমান শিক্ষা ব্যবস্থা যে পাচ্ছেন আমার
আমাদের কোয়েডের শিক্ষার্থীদের উদ্দেশ্যে তোমার কিছু বলার আছে?
অবশ্যই বলা আছে। আমাদের যে সময় ছিল ওই সময় অনেক ভালো পড়াশোনা হতো। আমরা আশা করি তোমরা অনেক ভালো পড়াশোনা করবে, ইনশাআল্লাহ তোমরাও ভালো ভালো পর্যায়ে আসবা। কারণ হচ্ছে স্বপ্ন দেখতে হয়, ভালো জায়গায় আসতে হলে কি যে স্টেজ করতে স্বপ্ন দেখতে হবে, ইচ্ছে থাকতে হবে। পড়াশোনার সাথে লেগে থাকলে এক সময় তুমি কেমন মানে স্টুডেন্ট, দিস ইজ নট ম্যাটার। ম্যাটার হচ্ছে তুমি কতটা চেষ্টা করতেছি, তুমি পড়াশোনার সাথে কতটা লেগে থাকছি, এটাই হচ্ছে আসল ম্যাটার। ইনশাআল্লাহ তোমরাও পড়াও, তোমরাও সাইন করবে।
তোমাকে অসংখ্য ধন্যবাদ। আমি আশা করছি তুমি ভবিষ্যতে একজন বড় ডাক্তার হবে, এবং শুধু বড় ডাক্তারই হবে না, তুমি তোমার কমিউনিটির জন্য তুমি কিছু একটা করবে, এবং ইউ উইল থিংক দ্যাট ইউ। খুব ভালো থেকো, তোমার সাথে আবারও কথা হবে। তোমাকে অসংখ্য।
Sorry, I've got 2 more videos, but I love both of these.
My name is Sunia. I am 10 years old. I read in class 5. My father's name is Ibrahim. My mother's name is Fatima.
What do you want to be in future?
I want to be a...
বড় হয়ে কি হতে চাও বলো?
আমি সোনিয়া। আমি পঞ্চম শ্রেণীতে পড়ি। আমার রোল 1। আমার পরিবারে আমি ছাড়াও মা, বাবা এবং 2 ভাই রয়েছে। আমার ছোট ভাই ব্রেন স্ট্রোক করে তার চিকিৎসার জন্য অনেক টাকা ঋণ করতে হয়েছে। মা অসুস্থ। আমার বাবা বাক প্রতিবন্ধী। আমিও আমার পরিবার কুইট সংস্থার কাছে চিরকৃতজ্ঞ আমাকে পঞ্চম শ্রেণী পর্যন্ত বিনামূল্যে পড়াশোনা করার সুযোগ দেওয়ার জন্য। কিন্তু এরপর আমার স্বপ্ন কি থেমে যাবে? My name is Sunia.
And finally, this is the last video.
আমার নাম রাজীব, আমি পঞ্চম শ্রেণীতে পড়ি। আমি বাংলাদেশের হামজা চৌধুরীর মতন ভালো ফুটবলার হতে চাই।
আমার ছোট ভাই রাজীব পড়ালেখার পাশাপাশি ভালো ফুটবল খেলে। আমরা চাই যে ভালো খেলে দেশের ভালো পর্যায়ে যাব।
পরিবার থেকে এটাই আমাদের স্বপ্ন। যদি আপনাকে একদম প্রথম পর্যায় থেকে বলি, এখানে মাঠ বলতে তারা মনে করতো যে মাঠ দিয়ে শস্য শুকানোর জন্য মাঠ তৈরি করা হয়, কিন্তু মাঠে যে খেলাধুলা হয় এটা সম্পর্কে তাদের তেমন ধারণা ছিল না। যখন মাঠ হয়েছে, এই মাঠে বাচ্চারা ফুটবল, ক্রিকেট তারা খেলাধুলা করে, কিন্তু প্রথম দিকে এখানের অভিভাবকরা মনে করতো যে এটা আমাদের সময় লস করছে। যখন তারা জানতে পারছে যে আসলে খেলার মাধ্যমেও দেশের নাম উজ্জ্বল করা যায়, পরবর্তীতে তারা খেলার প্রতি অনেকটা আকৃষ্ট হয়েছে এবং ছেলেটাকে খেলার জন্য উৎসাহিত করছে, পাশাপাশি পড়াশোনাও ভালো চলতেছে।
So once again, thank you for to Fahim and the team for getting that together. And look, speaking of thanks, you've heard from a number of members of the committee today, but I'd also like to shout out to my other committee members who didn't get a chance to speak today. And I actually, so Geraldine, Rod, Shirley, all based in Warwick, along with Patsy, who I don't have a photo of on file, and Pradama. So that's it for the AGM as far as the bits that I really wanted you to stay for. The rest is going to be truly boring with elections and things like that. So you're more than welcome to leave. But how do I sum it up? I haven't actually got any particularly. I'm all worn out actually from yesterday and today. I have nothing particular that I wanted to share, except that for me personally, I guess this is a very hard job, a job that I've been involved with COED now for over 3 decades, and this last 10 years since Fred passed away obviously has been very, very difficult. And in fairness to everything, I think that for me, as I think I say most years, but I'll amend it slightly, the committee is the reason I keep going. The committee is the reason I am able to keep going. But this year, additionally, I have to admit, I've started to focus more on realising the amazing stories of our donors, which is why I got very emotional before, because I realised, not all our donors are wealthy. In fact, we subsist on little money. We don't, not just the total budget, but the nation's, They're either very large donations from very ordinary, in terms of income, Australians, or they're small donations, but still substantial from ordinary Australians that come year after year, sometimes twice a year, sometimes 12 times a year. And so it is, you know, it's the donors and the committee that, sorry, I don't know why I'm so bloody emotional. I do apologise. But it is those two parties that actually make a big difference for me, and make it easier to do the work that I do. So thank you very much, everyone, for turning up this year. I promise next year, if you do turn up, I'll have my emotions under better control. But thanks very much. And it's wonderful to see your faces and read your comments, and we'll stay in touch. Thank you.